big time, brother. How are you, Nige?
I'm good, my friend. And how are you, Chris?
Oh, I am fantastic. Hello, people of the world. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kris Siddiqi.
And I'm Nigel Downer.
And this is our watch party for the show that we made called Bit Playas. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to do this throughout the next 4 weeks, every Tuesday and Thursday at 4:20 right here. So please join us and watch all our episodes, man. We figured, this is one of the best possible ways during a global pandemic and civil unrest just to chill out and watch a show about nerds.
Yeah, and speaking of nerds, this was made for you, the nerds, all right? And it was also made for nerds of color, all right? For all you people of color, because we wanted to make something that represented not just us, but the millions of people of color in Canada, all around the world even, and who want to see themselves represented on screen. So we made it happen.
For sure, we made it happen. Nige, how you doing, man? What's on your shirt?
Oh man, this is a little Black Dynamite, my man.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love it.
It's a great series.
I got a little raps crushing the Golden Gate Bridge.
Because we still the champs.
We still the champs, man. Unbeaten.
Oh, feels good. Feels good. Hey,
man. Feels good.
Chris, listen, I know we have a special guest after we watch the episode.
That's right.
I don't want to talk about them right now.
Okay.
But I just want to say I'm excited.
Dude, me too. This is our very first episode. This is the intro episode to our series. We called it Auditions because, this is the most well-known lifestyle for Nigel and I, is going to auditions and constantly being stereotyped. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Oh. I know what you mean. I wrote it with you.
I know, dude. Oh, my God. So, everybody, please enjoy the very first episode of Bit Playas Auditions. The Black Dynamite shirt, eh?
Yeah, dude. The illustration's but I love the fact that we're still the champs, the dinosaurs.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hey, it's a good episode, eh, man?
Oh, man, I just, again, revisiting that, it was just mind-blowing to see how fast we put that together, and it was so fantastic to watch.
Dude, it was also mind-blowing to see all of our dear friends helping us out. This is a big reason why we wanted to make this show, to bring our friends in. We got Kevin Whalen, Ann Pornell, Michelle Coburn, Daryl Hines, Kevin Vidal, Dan Byrne, Faisal Butt, Marito Lopez, Brandon Ash Mohammed, Mike Carolla, Chris Robinson, Chris Sandiford, and of course, our dear friend Rodrigo Fernandez Stoll. God rest his soul. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah.
Also, you see that wicked, all that pixel animation? All those images are created by a friend, Stephen Osborne. Mm-hmm, you can check him out, neo.city. And edited by the great Morgan Waters, man. Beautiful.
The whole thing is just gorgeous from top to bottom. And so many more stories are going to come out about how the series got made and what we did to make this series and all the people that helped us make this series. But I just want to give another shout out to Stephen Osborne because, Chris, you found this guy online and we met with him almost immediately. He was up for it. We pitched him the idea, and then he just so quickly put together so many wicked digital 8-bit pieces of our city that are landmarks and that are intros and outros to the whole series.
100%. It was so great to just have that aesthetic as part of our show. And it was, we were just honored to have all that art and these amazing artists and comedians.
Yeah,
it was great. This is also the first episode that I think was the most piecemealed apart. We filmed so much of that on the first day of filming. So much of that on the last day of filming, certain of those in-betweens, and then to see it all cut together like that was just so phenomenal. It was movie magic, Nige.
It was movie magic. You know who else was magic? Our guest today. Now, he also went by the name Mick G.
That's right.
So we're going to get into a little conversation with the one, the only, Andy King.
Hey.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, guys.
It's a hell of a mask.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Well, I just got here, so I can kind of take it all off now.
Oh, great.
It's very appropriate. It all complemented each other.
Great. Safe.
And you got a killer COVID-19 beard going on.
Thank you very much, Kris.
Yeah, you got it.
My brother, my son asked me if I would keep growing it throughout the pandemic. I don't know why, but I said sure.
I think dads with beards are the cool. I kept pestering my dad to grow a beard when I was young, and he never did.
Oh, wow. My dad has only had a beard. I've only known him with a beard. I've only seen vintage pictures without one, but he has always had a beard.
Awesome.
Your thing. My dad had a mustache growing up, and I was just talking about this the other day. I can't remember why, but he had a mustache growing up his whole life, and then he shaved it one time when I was 12, my brother was 9. And I remember my brother threw a fit, he was crying. He was like, "I don't know you." It was insane, and he had to go back immediately.
Oh, wow. Weird. So how long does it take you to grow a beard that length?
Well, I think probably stopped shaving when the lockdown started, so maybe March or something. But not that long. I'm a pretty hairy person overall, and it's actually, can be helpful at times. But my wife is not into it.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
What I keep telling her is that I think you get more respect from other men when you have a good
100%.
In a subtle way. No one would admit it, but you can feel it.
Yeah. I mean, I always give beard shout outs because this is all I can grow after, 4 months? And I got whole pieces of skin just exposed. I call it growing just long eyelashes out of my face, essentially. I want that. I want that big fat beard,
Well, you can still kiss people with your beard.
I can still kiss, but my wife doesn't like it when it's growing out because it's really spiky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a middle
I got nothing. I mean, I can't even connect my sideburns to here. It stopped. There's a big piece of real estate that stops. And then this takes at least a good, I would say 2 months to grow anything in full. So it's not, I'm out of this conversation.
Anyway, guys, I just watched the episode with you.
Yeah.
Behind the wall here. And man, that was a lot of fun because I haven't seen it in a while. And I actually think it's awesome. I was loving it.
Yeah, man. Me too. I mean, not to blow our own horns, but toodly doot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Watching it again was just great. I mean, Nigel and I were talking about the other day, Andy, where that was the one episode, I think, that was so pieced apart. I remember filming so much on the first day and so much on the last day. And seeing that all come together, I just love that. And I also my big thing that I really love, my favorite shot in that episode, there are many, but it's Nigel getting ready to prepare and then the curtains opening up and the scene just coming in. And I remember we thought about that. How do we do that? How do we mix this? And it just became so simple of just oh, wait a minute. Just the simplicity made it so cool.
Well, we had a lot of conversations about that early on. And I got to say, I was thinking coming over here that going into it on day one when we were shooting, I was still what are we? I didn't know what we were going to do yet because it was you guys are so experimental with your style and so open and free. And I don't know, it felt weird to lock things down. I didn't know whether to open it up. So, yeah, even though maybe it seemed pretty smooth in some ways, I didn't really know what we were doing, I think, for a while. But you guys had a lot in the script. The script is really well structured. And even watching it again, I was whoa, they set this whole Big G thing up within 3 minutes. And that is the series conflict, believe it or not. Whether you get this part in a McG movie. That was great. And I think that you had a lot of fantasies in the script. You had that Nigel would go into or Leon would go into fantasy on the day in this world, but it was sort of maybe are we cutting the fantasies? Is it sort of like a TV changing channels? What are we doing? And then I think what we started to do is just incorporate the fantasy in Because I noticed in the video game scene, I forgot what in suddenly that you have like smoke bombs going off behind you. But there's no explanation for that. It's just, you know, it's kind of your world all the time and things can happen. And that's the fun of this show.
I think so. Yeah. It was really when we got the note of just be like, yeah, just keep going, go bigger, keep doing it. So we were like, yeah, okay. And I will, you know what? Credit where credit is due, Andy. Mick G came from you.
I'll tell you.
Yeah. And you were insistent. There was something about Mick G that you're like, put this in.
Maybe it's from when I was growing up, but Mick G was always a sort of a punchline among my friends. I don't know why, because, you know, there's very few directors that get their name in the TV commercials.
Yeah.
You know, where it says, like, I remember actually for some reason Antoine Fuqua used to get the above the line ability, like directed by Antoine Fuqua. And most of the public didn't know who that was, but he got it in the eyes, and Mick G was another one.
Yeah.
But when we first heard it, we were like, Mick G? What is that? It sounds like a sandwich at McDonald's. Like, you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's this weird white guy who he actually walks around in a cowboy hat like this with Air Jordans, and he's kind of a character. So
I feel like, too, he came from that era of directors that were directing, like, commercials and music videos, too. So when you had to find a cool name, you know, like, who was the guy that directed all the Puff Daddy and Mace videos?
Director X?
or
Director X, right?
Yeah. That reminds me, I want to say, like, what we had a lot of creativity, Kris and I, and we got to go next level and got to go as far as we could. However, the first round of scripts that we handed to you, they were beefy, they were large scripts. And so I want to talk about how you approach those and start editing and helping us, like, just fine tune it and really find some more conflicts in that. How did you go about it when you first read them?
Well, it's just the structure, like just trying to find the structure so that it's tight. Like, I mean, I don't know. I like stuff that's tight structurally, and the tighter it is, the more you guys can have fun, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So it's just like you guys had all the beats. It's really cool. Like, it's such a strong voice in the writing and everything else. It was just like, okay, well, you know, what does Leon really want? You know, what does Ahmed really want? And, like, you know, what are they going for? All the classic shit. You know, you guys know. But, you know, I really like to make sure that everything works structurally in that way, so that, you know, there's always an underlying architecture to everything. And if those beats aren't there, you're just kind of like, what? Like, you need to kind of work on the drama beats first and figure out that it works as a story. And then you can go wild and have fun. And then you just keep layering jokes. And that was actually a fun thing watching this, was because I thought the structure really was strong. And then you keep going all these performances, and you mentioned all the actors we had in it, but, like, it's just one after another, just like a moment, but they're so good. These little beats, like Kevin Vidal in the audition, so quickly from, you know, his thug character to, like, yeah, me. And then, you know, Rod, of course. I mean, just the read.
Oh, man.
Guy in the audition room who's doing nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Big shout out to Kevin Whalen and Dan Byrne playing, like, those are two of the most perfect casting directors. And I mean, shout out to them. They've been doing this for a very long time, so they know that tone that they were supposed to hit, but they hit it on the head.
Yeah.
What I love about it is like, all these guys know this world so well. And, you know, for some reason in Canada, I've pitched a bunch of sort of behind the scenes ideas in the past, and everyone's like, no, we don't do behind the scenes here. I don't know why, but they never want to do it. But the interesting thing is, all you actors and anyone who's worked in this knows it intimately. So, like, when Dick Warren steps in or Whalen steps in that does this, they're grabbing nuances that, like, it's from personal experience. And that's what makes the show so much better. Like you guys and your personal experience and all these things that have actually happened to you in casting rooms. And I don't know, that's what I'm into. And you can be crazy and weird and silly and absurd, but there's a reality and, like, a real personal experience touch underneath it all.
Let me ask you
And
this.
I would be remiss. Sorry, Kris. I would be remiss if I didn't say, or if I didn't correct myself. I said Director X earlier. It's actually Hype Williams. It was Hype Williams. I went through my brain, my 90s Rolodex, and it was Hype Williams. Continue, Christopher. Yes.
No, I was going to ask Andy, as far as directors go, let me ask you this. I'm going to throw out some directors for you. You tell me who's better in your opinion, okay? Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola?
Like better, dude. I'm tough on the subjective stuff. Okay, first of all, you just screwed me up with that one because I love Scorsese. Right? I know everyone does, but I freaking love Coppola too. Like, and if you listen to Coppola's sort of uneven. He doesn't have as many good movies. Like, he has some of the best movies of all time.
Okay.
And a bunch of duds, I guess. But if you listen to that guy, I could listen to him all day talk about cinema and film and storytelling and everything. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, I just listened to Scorsese's masterclass and it was great.
Yeah.
Coppola is just a more grounded person. He has less ego than Scorsese. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Coppola knows who he is. And
Right.
he's another level, like beyond most filmmakers, I think. He just hasn't done anything in so long, really. So.
Yeah. What was Coppola's last movie?
Jesus, I don't even. Oh no, he did something like some personal film, like in his backyard. I don't. I think Val Kilmer was in it. I don't recall.
Oh.
But if you go back to The Godfather, dude, or Godfather 2, or The Conversation, or Apocalypse Now, like it's on a whole nother level. Like
Yeah.
I mean, really, no one today is getting close to it.
Okay, then let me ask you this: what about Wes Anderson or the Coen Brothers?
Coen Brothers for sure.
Yeah.
But I was a big Wes fan. You know, I'm an older guy, and I remember I was probably like 18 or something when Bottle Rocket came out,
Yeah.
and I saw it 5 times in a theater.
Wow, really, eh?
Yeah, like it just, that movie hit me so hard. I loved it. And Rushmore was okay, but for me, they all progressively got a little worse because I thought they got more sort of, I don't love it usually for me when it's like so art directed and so perfect and so kind of, you know, everything's a picture or whatever. And I feel like it takes away from the reality of something.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I think actually Wes Anderson, his stop motion animation movies work phenomenally because he can be so precise and so anal retentive about all that.
I totally agree with that because my kids just watched Isle of Dogs and it's so great. And it's like, I don't know anyone else in the world that could even do that.
I know.
Yeah.
My son has watched that like 20 times. He adores that movie.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then he gets this amazing cast to do it as well. So
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this final question. Back to the Future 1 or Back to the Future 2?
I mean, 1, obviously. That's what we're talking about. Well, 2, first of all, I didn't even mind 2, but everyone who talks about 2 around me, because I have been talking about Back to the Future a lot lately, okay? Another movie that I just watched with my kids a couple of years, and they loved it. A couple of years ago, me and my brother Matt, the executive producer of Bit Playas, were in a hotel room in New York City. We're supposed to go to this awards show, and Back to the Future came on TV, and we didn't go. We just sat in the hotel and watched the whole movie.
Awesome.
And we had the best time. Like, it is maybe a perfect movie, in my opinion. Just like I talked about structure earlier. It's perfect. There's nothing that gets mentioned that doesn't come back. The casting is perfect. Like, everything about it. That it's so incredible. So, you know, for me, it's a perfect movie. So 2 can't measure up, but I've been talking about it a lot lately. People are like, oh, wasn't 2 horrible? Wasn't Back to the Future 2 terrible? Wasn't, you know, I was like, it wasn't that bad. Like, I still remember a lot of fun details from it. And
I have a friend who says Back to the Future 3 is better than Back to the Future 2. And I was like, what?
That person shouldn't be your friend anymore.
This is Matt Watts, our story editor, who also wrote one of our episodes. He said 3 is better than 2. And I was like, yo, I agree with you, Andy. 1 is untouchable. And I think because it's a time travel movie that is less about time travel and more about family. And I think a lot of time travel movies get caught up in their concept of time travel, where Back to the Future was like, no, this is a small bubble of a story that we're concentrating on about family, and time travel just happens to be the context around it.
And you want to know why? Because, what's his name? Bob Gale, the guy who came up with it.
Right.
It wasn't like, let me write a sci-fi movie. He was at his parents' place cleaning out their attic because he was like moving their house, and he found an old yearbook with his dad's photo in it. And I guess he's like a total nerd or something. And he was like, would I have been friends with my dad in high school?
Huh.
That's where he started from.
That was the premise, and then he just wrote the movie. Wow.
That's amazing.
So it's from that place, you know? And another thing I realized when Matt and I watched it is, like, they get away with basically a full incest storyline.
No.
An mainstream movie. I mean, it's a tease. It's not happening, but it's incest. The whole movie, and it's like the highest grossing movie of that era, and everyone loves it. It's crazy because everyone gets it. It's like, oh my God, like the mom thinks that it's someone else. Like it's crazy. But those little things where we're like, oh my God, is he going to kiss his mother? Like, it's the best.
It's the best. It's the best tension too. All the tension at the end. I know every time I watch that movie, I am still so racked with tension watching Doc trying to plug the thing in and Marty trying to start the car and everything. I know what's going to happen, but it still gets me.
It's amazing. It's incredible filmmaking, and then the cast is perfect. Like Doc Brown is perfect. The mom, Leah Thompson, Kris, love her. I mean, it's incredible.
So you mentioned a really cool thing. You guys had this amazing conversation about Scorsese, but let's just talk about the fact that this guy thinks that the Marvel universe, the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, is not real cinema, is not real film. Andy, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I know what he means in a sense, but it's a little weird because, like, Scorsese totally grew up watching Westerns, for example. And, like, he's always talking about The Searchers. And he himself said that The Searchers came out and it was not really loved in its time. You know, it's this Western with John Wayne. But that he and his friends really got into it and they loved it. And it was like a big movie for them. And then they saw this sort of cinematic potential in it, of course. I mean, it's a John Ford movie. It's pretty incredible. But I think just in some cases it's the same with Marvel, where it's just a generational thing. He doesn't get it, but there are some great filmmaking. Like you could talk about. I mean, I watched Thor Ragnarok with my son, and who's that? Taika
Waititi, yeah.
That's a great comedy, and there's even who did Ant-Man? That's a good one too. I mean, they're all films in their own way, and they have their own little take, but they're stuck in this sort of path where they're stuck being part of a franchise, you know, and that changes things. It just does. And I think Avengers, I saw it like Endgame. Was it Endgame, the last one? Like, it's still fun. I'll always watch those things because they're the ultimate. They're the pinnacle. It's like a $1 billion movie, but it gets a little much, It's just, you know what I mean?
I get what you mean. I mean, listen, it's going to be hard to convince me that it's a little much because I've been a comic book guy from day one. So it's extra, but it's just so perfectly extra. And then, okay, well, how about this? You mentioned Scorsese saying, talking about he's coming from the age of Westerns. Totally true. But now we've got The Mandalorian, which literally Favreau has taken the best parts of Westerns and made this epic TV series that was appointment television again. Did you watch The Mandalorian, and how do you feel about it if you did?
I did. I really liked it a lot, and it was great. And Favreau is just a guy who's amazing too. Like, he's actually an amazing filmmaker, and I don't know that people think of him when they think of sort of great directors, but he really is an incredible director. I don't know if you saw Chef, his little movie that he did. But, I mean, it was so
great.
It was such a good little indie film. And anyway, he's a great director. And in a way, he kind of revitalized the whole Marvel thing with Iron Man because of his take on it and the way he used Robert Downey Jr. He didn't get some handsome, I mean, he is handsome, but like, he didn't get your typical handsome actor. He got Robert Downey Jr., who wasn't massive at that point, right? And he was really funny, and it was sort of counter-programming. They were doing comedy in this big epic. So, more than anyone, he kind of influenced the whole style of it. But, sorry, your question was The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian's great. I mean, it's awesome. There is creative filmmaking being done in this space. So, no, Scorsese's not totally right, but I understand his point, right? And it's just like an old story between studio indie pictures and stuff. But Nigel, I want to ask you, because I don't know this. Like, what is your favorite comic book movie?
Ooh, okay. My favorite comic book movie. Oh my God, the pressure. I'm probably gonna have to say I really liked Winter Soldier. I liked Winter Soldier a lot. There's been a ton of comic book movies before and after. I mean, I could even say Batman '89, Tim Burton's Batman '89, because that was such a massive leap for comic books. But I would say Winter Soldier or Dark Knight. And Tom Holland's first Spider-Man. I think those are probably my top three. I mean, and then Black Panther is in there for different reasons, because of the movement, because of how iconic that movie is to Black people, Black kids like me. When I was a child, I jumped on board, but I didn't know what I was reading. But yeah, so I would probably say either Dark Knight or Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I just threw on Netflix the third one. What is it? Dark Knight Rises.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Right.
with Bane and Catwoman, yeah.
Pretty insane. I mean, the first thing they do with the plane, and also Bane, like literally the voice of Tom Hardy with that voice is wild. To be like,
Yeah.
ooh, like just the idea that he committed to that, and I don't know, it's wild though, and it's so heavy. And I mean, just
Well, Chris Nolan just so next level. The guy, I remember watching that plane scene, that sequence in a preview to another movie, and it was like, because it was shot in IMAX, that specific scene, it just was mind blowing. And to your point, Andy, the commitment of her, and you're like, what is happening right now?
but it works. Like,
Yeah.
he does it, and it works. And someone compared him recently with his Capone film to Brando. That he's the closest actor these days to Brando. And you know what? He kind of is. Brando,
Wow.
you would just make a weird choice like that and go all the way with it. And so it's pretty wild. Anyway, Chris, what's your favorite comic book movie?
Tank Girl.
Okay.
Oh, good one.
No,
Good one.
not at all. No, that was a pure.
Like kind
Not
of
at all. No, I could care less about Tank Girl. Honestly, I think Blade. I think the very first Blade movie, that was the first one that was like a Marvel movie outside of this, before they started a franchise. And I was just like, I've always loved Wesley Snipes. I also think the action in it is amazing. And I love the filmmaking in it. There's this guy, Stephen Norrington, who did it. And he hasn't done that many movies, but that was like one of his first big movies. It was amazing. That whole movie is awesome. I'll say that. Stamp that right now. Blade is my favorite movie. Then Tank Girl.
Well, what about in the modern era?
Modern era. Yeah.
You must have liked Ragnarok, but I guess you can't say it's a favorite because it's not like still Thor.
Mm.
Not like a favorite. Everyone wishes
But
they had actually done Ant-Man, right? So they could say that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess of the modern times, I guess the very first Batman Begins. I loved that one. I
Yeah.
thought that was fantastic. I thought it just showed his journey really well. It jumped to so many different places. I think Batman Begins. That's the most solid one. I love Dark Knight Returns. Or no, what's the second one? The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, yeah.
But the first one was just, I don't know, it felt very much comic booky in the same way as it felt filmic, you know?
I mean, and I jump on board with what you're saying, and I think the ultimate for me is The Matrix. Now, it's not a comic book movie, but what the Wachowskis did with that is everything comic book and sci-fi all in one. Like, it takes all the comic book tropes, but it takes so much more sci-fi that it's put in the sci-fi wheelhouse. Obviously, there wasn't a book before it. There was numerous writing material after. But the whole thing of taking a hero who didn't know that he was born and raised, Neo, born a hero before that to save the world. That's just iconic comic book trope, right? And then he's got this cool badass jacket. He's got an arsenal of weapons at his fingertips whenever he just calls for it. Guns. We're going to need lots of guns. And they all show up. It's amazing.
Well, this is a great segue into the next show we're doing, where it's just Nigel, Andy, and I sitting around talking about our favorite movies. So catch that when that comes out. I don't know when that's coming out, but just a big thank you to Andy for joining us again, brother. Much appreciated. So great to see you, pal.
You guys, again. Maybe we'll do it again. I hope.
Yeah.
I got a couple things to pitch you guys on season 2. So
okay, perfect.
Taking some notes in my journal this pandemic about it. So.
Oh, great.
Sweet.
Well, we're not doing anything, so let's totally do it.
Thanks for having me, guys. See you later.
Thanks,
Good
Andy.
to see you. See you soon. Well, there you have it, Nige. We got through our first episode, a memorable one. It was great. And I just want to say to everybody out there watching, please join us every Tuesday and Thursday for the next 4 weeks. We're showing our entire series of Bit Players starting at 4:20 every Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And don't forget, if you love what you saw here and you want to learn a little bit more, or if you just want to reach out to us, hit us up at Bit Playas on all the socials. We're talking IG, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Zoom, just
OnlyFans. Do you have an OnlyFans account yet?
Pornhub. I'm sorry, what?
OnlyFans? Okay. Do we have an OnlyFans account? Yeah.
Yep, probably OnlyFans. But check us out at Bit Playas. We're around. Come check us out.
That's right. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. We'll see you guys soon.
On behalf of myself, Nigel Downer, and Kris Siddiqi, and LaRue Entertainment, and the whole cast and crew that created Bit Playas, I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss or talk about Black Lives Matter. This is a huge movement that's happening right now, that needs to happen right now, to battle systemic racism. Police are killing Black men and Black women, and I think right now is the best time, the right time, to do your research, read books, watch documentaries, donate, help with charities, or even protest or march, whatever you need to do to help. Because Black lives matter.